You're a bitch if you can't handle a little isolation. After seeing celebs, specifically Sam Smith, crying about being in quarantine, I've been questioning how feeble people's minds really are. If you feel like you can't handle being in isolation, you need to toughen up. And Frank hid in an attic for 2 years, and you can't handle a few weeks by yourself? Call your friends, cook, learn an instrument or learn how to draw, play video games. Get hammered every day if you want. There probably won't be another opportunity like this for a very long time, and y'all wanna bitch about how hard it is to be alone. Does your entire personality solely consist of going to bars and restaurants and spending money? I have a million ways to keep myself entertained and maintain good spirits. You should too. Staying inside for a month has literally been the easiest thing I've ever done. Imagine prison if quarantine feels rough. I'm just vibing, my only wish is that I would be completely alone, actually, lol. I believe this is colloquially called cabin fever. There was a thing also called prairie madness, prairie fever, which was an affliction that affected European settlers in the Great Plains during the migration to, and settlement of, the Canadian prairies and the western United States in the 19th century. Some people just can't handle being away from people and being alone. Humans are tribal and social in nature, despite all the people currently saying they love being isolated. You see it most in the elderly when they're forced to stay in their houses due to ill health. They ever so slowly start to suffer from loneliness and social exclusion. I know it's annoying because it's only been a number of weeks, but it affects people in different ways. That's just the way it is. Remember that some people are quarantining with abusive people, don't have finances or storage to buy a week's worth of food at a time, etc. Fuck Sam Smith crying with his millions of dollars in a mansion. I can't afford the dentist or a doctor's appointment. Fuck celebrities. Why is the subreddit so aggressive? LMAO. And Franca isn't exactly a good comparison. She very frequently complained in her diary of being confined to the attic. Some depressed people, like me, aren't taking this well mentally. It's not a toughen up scenario. That's the thing, is not everybody is built the same, and they shouldn't be built the same. Your examples are a little silly in my opinion. I don't think many people feel like celebrities have much to be upset about in comparison to what most do. Also, I'm sure and Frank cried. It's not just being stuck inside, it's all of the little things building up on top of not having your normal routine to keep you sane. A lot of people are financially stressed about getting products they need, stressed keeping family safe, etc. It's a huge burden and you're allowed to feel some kind of way about it. I got downvoted for saying this on a post where someone was giving advice to people coping with staying inside and he likened it to a prison sentence. Honestly, people who feel imprisoned in their own homes need help just as much as someone who doesn't want to leave their home. What about those who live in abusive households? I'd just like to offer a little perspective. I have bad anxiety issues, and haven't really left the house in over a year. But for some reason, knowing that I have to be inside is worse, even though it's what I would have been doing anyway. Have you read Anne Frank's diary? She complained about living in the attic and not being able to go anywhere numerous times. I disagree, and here's why. I think you're looking at it from the perspective that staying home is easy because you're probably used to it. Imagine if the circumstances were swapped and you had to be in front of people, all the time, with no alone time to speak of. Personally, if the outside world demanded me constantly, with no breaks or privacy, I would probably break mentally. These Hollywood types and social people are feeling the exact opposite right now. Their comfort zone has always included a crowd, and now that the crowd is gone, they're probably feeling a loneliness that they're not accustomed to. If I can want alone time, I think they should be able to want social time. That said, Sam Smith is a wannabe Beyonce and his Bond theme is terrible. Not gonna lie, haven't been taking this that well. I've been super antsy and it's difficult to keep my spirits up. I agree with you on people who act like it's the end of the world, but I'd be lying if I said I was completely unaffected. It's not even about being entertained. It's more about the endless worrying and concern for the future that's making me come a bit unhinged. I spend lots of time wondering how many can continue on like this with no income. I'm glad for the break from responsibility, but that silver lining doesn't last forever. Think of isolation this way: it's all the little things that get to you and pile up, like someone stacking quarters on top of your head. Yeah, sure, at first it's not bad, but then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it crushes you, and due to different circumstances in different people's lives, that stack grows slower or faster for different people. And this is especially hard for those of us with disabilities. I'm completely blind, and the lack of visual stimuli while also remaining at home without much to do is contributing to my depression and anxiety, not to mention my boredom. You do realize that isolation can actively affect the human brain. It's something that can cause sleep problems and gastric upset, more childlike behavior, more risk-taking. Even post-isolation you can have severe issues depending on the level and duration of it. Most of us should be fine, as most people don't live alone and have ways to connect without leaving our homes, but I would wager celebrities are probably the kind of people that gain their energy from socializing / enjoy being the center of attention. This a dramatic lifestyle change for them. Social isolation, especially prolonged isolation, can and does exacerbate and even cause depression and anxiety. That is a legitimate thing. Remember that we are inherently a social species. We weren't built for this kind of thing. We have to do it, but don't berate people who are struggling with it, for God's sake. And yes, Anne Frank hid in an attic for 2 years, and I'm sure it was an immense struggle for her and her family on an emotional level. Listen, if it doesn't bother you, good. But that's you, not everyone else. Mental health experts have already predicted a surge in their business when this thing is over. Know what? With 2 kids, 7 and 5, and a spouse who's working huge hours, I envy the fuck out of you all who are cooking, playing video games and shit. I'd give my left nut to have your version of quarantine for just a few days. Take your pissing and moaning and fuck off.